the What It Takes radio company, connecting you with your audience. And we present episode 3 in How to Be a World-Class Podcaster. Because, guess what? The world needs to hear your story. And we talked about meeting an important person. And now we have to learn something about somebody else who is even more important than you if you want to be world-class.
Well, greetings once again, ladies and gentlemen. We're glad that you could be with us. This also means that you are continuing to be serious about being just exactly what we titled this little coaching experience to be, how to be a world-class podcaster. Now, I'm hoping that you have gone through and perhaps remembered lesson 1 where we talked about what this is all about and perhaps in some way how it could benefit you. Then number 2, we introduced you to a person that you really have to get to know, someone you have to learn all about in order to be just that. Not just do a podcast, but to be a broadcaster, to be a podcaster, and to be very professional and be world-class. And that's, you got to get to know you and all of the things that go into that. Because remember, it's you are the message. You make the difference. The material is just something that is practical and useful, but it's not going to do anybody any use unless you bring it forward in such a powerful and attractive way that people are engaged. And you need to know who you are. And there are people who have actually taken a course like this, and they have decided that, they're not going to do podcasting right now. But they learned a lot about themselves and about what they wanted out of their life and their business. And as one person said to me, I don't know if I'll ever do a podcast, but I do know that I'll be a far better writer and a leader and a presenter because I took this class. Because I learned that I am important and I have to make the difference and I have to make it happen. And I have to have clarity of mind, spirit, soul, intentions, presentations. I have to make it happen. I have to be the difference in who I am and what I believe and how I perform and what I want to achieve. That's good. And now today we're going to go into episode 3, and this is about another person. And you have to know this person just about as well as you know you. The first person you need to know. Let me tell you the story of how this may happen. A number of years ago, I was working with a broadcasting company, and it was in the Netherlands, and it had people from all over the world. And it was a religious group that was teaching people from all over the world how they could be good broadcasters. Many of them had been pastors, they had been teachers, and they had been people who did the work, but they had never been on the radio. They didn't know anything about being on the radio, and we were trying to help them do that, just as I'm seeking to help you do that. And they all came excited, and I said to them before their first class, please keep in mind that we're going to ask you to really get to know you. And we went through the exercise that we just went through in Unit 2. And then I said, next, we're going to talk about your program. So we want you to decide what you want your program to be about. Well, they were all set for that. They were people who had taught, ministered, lectured, and presented, so they had all kinds of ideas. However, they got a rather shaking up when I told them that all of the stuff they had was not going to be what we're going to do. So it doesn't matter what you want to present and the material you've brought together. What I want you to do is this. We're going to give you tickets. And we were located in a village about 25 miles outside of the central part of Amsterdam, which is obviously a very cosmopolitan city. They speak a lot of English. Tourists and people from all over the world can be found doing work and visiting in Amsterdam. And of course, the Dutch people are very industrious, and most of them know 4 or 5 different languages, and they speak English fine. So he said, what we want you to do is we're going to give you a ticket, and we want you to go into the city, and we want you to start a conversation with somebody. Just, on the train, in the cafe, in the museum, watching a construction site. Find a way to try and start a conversation with somebody. And then we gave them a little bit of instruction about how to do that. And of course, one of the more interesting questions is just to go up and say to people, I'm a radio producer, and I'd like to know a little bit about what you think a good radio program should be about, or a little bit about you. Well, that was an easier one, but we had other ways where they could start a conversation. Now, sometimes it didn't work out for them. The person, no, I don't have time for that. Okay, fine. Wish them well. Remember, rejection is part of the game. There'll be people who are not interested in your program. They're not interested in you, and they want to have nothing to do with you. Don't take it personally. They don't know you. They don't know what you have to offer. That's just the way the world of radio works. You may have a lot of people who listen to you and like you, but you may have even more people who know nothing about you and don't care about your program and wouldn't listen to it. That doesn't matter. Well, obviously, when we gave the assignment, some of them were very apprehensive about it and quite scared, but we told them, this is part of what it takes. And they went out and they did that. And toward the end of the day, they came back. And for the most part, they had some very pleasant experiences. They were talking about some of the people they had talked to and the people they had met. And some of them said, well, they're going to keep in touch. It turned out to be exactly what I wanted it to be. That radio is not about them and the message that comes out of their mouth. It's about who? It's about the listener. It's about the viewer. It's about the other person. It's all about them. It's not about you. It's about them. That's the purpose. And now we'll answer that other question. Who do you want to be in your audience? Who do you want to listen to you? Now, some of these programs that you do will actually give you this training. Not many, but some of them do. They'll call it an avatar or something like that. And some of the better programs will actually encourage you to construct an avatar. Well, I don't know what an avatar is. I think it's an image, but I just simply want to make it very simple. Who's the person? Who's the person that you hope to communicate with? Who's the one person? Describe them to me. Well, obviously, what they were asked, they told me about the person they had met. And then I said, okay, you have a program tonight, and there's going to be one listener, and it's going to be them. What would your radio program be that would try and reach them? How would you do that? I said, forget about your script and what you had planned. You still may have something worthwhile, but the point is, how can you connect with your program that you would put out tonight with them? How would you be helpful and useful and engaging to them? How could you say something that would be, attractive to them? Well, it was a very new and different audience idea for them. And most of them confessed they never thought about that. They thought about, well, this is good stuff, and there's all those people out there in radio land. You've heard that. And I'll just get on my radio microphone and I'll just talk to them all. Well, we have an expression in radio, and it goes something like this. If you try and reach everybody with everything, you reach nobody with nothing. Let me give you a big secret. Radio, at its best, is one person. Writing a letter and speaking it is one person having a conversation with another person. One person talking to another person. And they're both blind. They can't see each other. That's what you are when you sit behind the microphone and talk to the listener. You're blind. You can't see them. And they're blind. They can't see you. So how are you going to speak? How are you going to talk? Are you going to use lots of facts and figures and things they have to memorize? What are you going to say and do? Because they can't see you. They can't see your charts. They can't remember all your numbers. They just have a voice. And that voice is you. And that voice has to be attractive and helpful and kind and challenging and perhaps entertaining and connecting. But you're both blind. Radio is one blind person talking to another blind person. See if you can kind of view it that way. Oftentimes what I ask people is, okay, now that you have all these things you want to do, tell me who you want to do them for. And now we're beginning to be broadcasters because we're not just thinking about us. We're not just thinking about our content. We are primarily thinking about our audience. In effect, the problem with a lot of people, they get on the radio because they have huge egos and they really want to shout it out and tell all those simple folks what they need to know and do. That doesn't work. They may think it does, and obviously, by accident, it could reach some people, but it's not good radio. It's not what really works. And so I'm going to encourage you to take this very seriously. Now, there's a lot more we could talk about in how to put together the profile, the projection, whatever word you want to use, but it's simply, who are the person? What are the people like? What are they like that you want to share something important with? Tell me about them. And now, what's the best way to talk to them and reach them? How do we do that? And that leads us to our radio program. So I'm trying to do that, and I'm trying to tell you some stories, give you some energy, and give you some ideas. Now, what I also want you to do is to begin to think beyond them as to what you want to have happen to them. Now, please, again, I'll say it 2 or 3 times because I know you probably can't write it all down, but maybe you can. But also pretend that the rest of the lecture, close your eyes or put a blindfold on, and you can perhaps get an idea of whether this is also a good radio program. What if you couldn't see me? Could this still be a pleasant conversation and a presentation? Good exercise. Those of you who do videos, think about that from time to time. Now, after they hear or while they are hearing your radio program, what do you want them to feel? Yeah, feelings are important, and it's the way you get in touch with most people, and particularly, first impressions count. First feelings matter. What do you want them to feel? Inspired? Sad? Thoughtful? What do you want them to feel as a result of your program? Number 2, what do you want them to experience? What about what happens to their body and their emotions? It's not just their feelings, but the whole thing. Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they glad? Are they challenged? Are they mad? Are they writing things down? Are they thinking deeply? Are they wanting to talk back to you? What would be the experience you'd like them to have? Number 3, okay, feelings, experience. What would you like them to know? I one time had a person challenge me and said, Stan, tell me something I don't know. In fact, that was the basis of whether I got the gig. Tell me something I don't know. Please remember, your job is to try and tell them something they don't know. Where they say, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Tell them something they don't know. But they're glad that they now know it, or they didn't know it, they think, my goodness. Then what do you want them to do? What do you want them to do? Okay, here we go again. What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to experience? What do you want them to know and remember? And what do you want them to do? You want them to buy something, give something, write, review, give recommendations, come back next week? What do you want them to do? And if you work it through that, a feeling, an experience, knowledge, and do, you are on the verge of a good radio program that may make a difference. And that's the final thing. Very seldom does it ever happen, but it happens from time to time. But it often happens in a long-term series of programs. How do you want them to change? People want better things in their life, but they usually don't want to change in a way that they can have better things. Well, how can you help them transform themselves? Be one of those transformers that the kids love, changing things into something else. That they truly are changed in perhaps who they are and what they do and how they think and what they believe. What do you hope will be the change in their lives? Now, how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that? Now, for the most part, you're going to find that out not by listening to me, but by just doing it. You've got some good guidance now about choosing your audience, choosing perhaps the audience or the person for that particular program. And you now know that you're going to have to use things that are one person talking to another person who may not know each other, and they're now connecting. They're blind. And what are you doing to connect with them? What's in your voice? What's in your content? What's in your energy and your personality that helps bring all those things forward? And then you close it up. And you always close with a benediction. You always wish them well. You always thank them. As I oftentimes say with a smile, if you've listened to this program for 20 minutes, you're now 20 minutes closer to being dead. I hope I was worthwhile you doing that, because those 20 minutes were precious. And whenever I have a radio program, I have to know that if they listen to the whole thing, I better be at my best, because they're never going to get that time back, and they spent it with me in my program. And what difference did it make? How did it help them? How was it useful? Maybe it just entertained them. That's fine. A lot of the things we do on the radio are just relaxing entertainment, things that make us smile. But how was it worthwhile for them to be there listening to you and experiencing you as you do your program for them? And they then can move forward in the next stage of their life, the next event in their life, and they are better off because they were with you for those 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour, hour and a half, whatever it might be. They're better off because you had a nice conversation with them, and you found it helpful and useful, and they found it helpful and useful too. So there we go. You're going to learn how to do that by doing it. You're going to find out how it works best for you now that you know what you seek to do. And it's nothing I should teach you. It's something that you will do because you do what you think you should do, and then you learn from each program. Every time you sit down at the end of your show, you say, how did it go? What do I like about it? What do I wish I could do over again? How can I change it? If I give this kind of program again, what will be different? I oftentimes tell people that I've done many similar radio programs on basically the same subject, but they're always different. Why? Because I'm different. Because the audience is different. because the things that happen, the feelings, the interchange, just the experience itself is different. So it's never the same show. It's never the same program, even though it may be like and very similar to what we've done before. So there we go. Thank you for your time. This is episode 3. Now you know why you should be a podcaster. Number 2, you need to know you. And then number 3, you need to know who you're speaking to, who is in your audience. Well, there's more to come in lesson 4. We're going to teach you again. Now, lessons 4 through 6 are going to be about how to actually do some of this stuff and do it well on the radio, on the podcast. That'll be coming up, and I'm going to teach you a vital formula that every world-class broadcaster needs to know as they design any program, any speech, any presentation. So remember what you learned from this one, and then be ready to learn for lesson 4. Thank you. Again, all the best and blessings to you, and we look forward to seeing you again on how to be, that's right, not just how to do, but how to be a world-class podcaster. Please reach out to me, Stan Houston, at stan@witradio.net. Witradio.net is our website, and 520-664-7002 USA.